Every town has a story it tries to forget, a dark legend that lingers in whispers and half-told tales. In the quiet town of Maplewood, that story was about the house on Raven Hill. No one lived there anymore, and no one dared to. The house stood on the far edge of town, surrounded by dying trees and tangled weeds that seemed to reach for anyone who passed too close. Its windows were shattered, the roof half collapsed, and yet, every year on Halloween night, people swore they saw a faint light glowing inside. The legend began in 1978, when the Miller family vanished without a trace. Neighbors reported hearing screams and strange noises coming from the house that Halloween night. But by the time police arrived, the place was empty. The doors were wide open, dinner was still on the table, and every clock in the house had stopped at exactly 10:47 p.m. The case was never solved. The town eventually gave up searching, but no one ever forgot the house. For decades, the property remained untouched. Weeds grew tall, covering the once beautiful yard, and animals avoided the place entirely. Children dared each other to approach it, but few ever got closer than the gate. Those who did often ran back, crying, claiming they felt something watching them from inside. Then came Halloween night 2003. The air was cold and fog crept low over the streets. It was the kind of night where every sound carried too far. The crunch of leaves, the rustle of wind, the distant laughter of trick-or-treaters. A 17-year-old boy named Jason Turner decided to do what no one else had the courage to. He would go inside Raven Hill, record everything, and prove the stories were nothing more than urban legend. Jason was known in town as Fearless. That evening, just before 10 p.m., he told his friends he'd spend 1 full hour in the house. They followed him to the gate, nervously laughing as he raised his camera and began recording. The last words on the footage were him saying the date, October 31st, 2003. Then he crossed the threshold. The camera showed Jason stepping into the darkness, his flashlight illuminating clouds of dust. The floorboards groaned beneath his feet. Old portraits hung crooked on the walls, their faces scratched away. The deeper he went, the colder the air became. His breath began to fog up the lens. In the background, the faint sound of whispering could be heard, not from him, but from somewhere above. He explored the kitchen, where rusted pots still hung on the walls, and mold crept across the counters. On the table lay a single plate covered in dust, but beside it was something strange, a half-burned candle that looked recently lit. He paused there for several minutes, as if listening. The camera trembled slightly in his hands. Then, from somewhere upstairs came the sound of soft footsteps, slow, deliberate, pacing back and forth. Jason's light moved to the staircase. Every step creaked as he ascended. The whispers grew louder, overlapping voices speaking in tones too low to understand. At one point, the camera caught a glimpse of a shadow moving at the end of the hallway, tall and thin, but when he turned the light toward it, there was nothing there. He entered a child's bedroom. Toys were scattered across the floor, covered in dust, yet a rocking horse in the corner swayed gently, as if recently touched. The window was closed and there was no wind. On the small desk sat an old drawing, a family of 4 standing in front of the house, smiling, but someone had scribbled a black figure towering over them. Jason zoomed in on the paper, and that's when the camera's microphone picked up something faint, a quiet humming, like a lullaby. Moments later, the camera flickered. The light dimmed and the audio filled with static. The humming turned into heavy breathing, then silence. Jason's flashlight swung wildly as he turned, pointing toward the hallway. For a brief second, the reflection in a cracked mirror showed something behind him. A tall, faceless silhouette standing impossibly still. Then the footage ended. When his friends came to check on him, they couldn't find him. The front door was open, but the house was empty. Police were called, and after hours of searching, all they recovered was Jason's camera lying near the stairs. No fingerprints, No signs of struggle, just the camera, and the exact time it stopped recording, 10:47 p.m.
In 2010, the town finally decided to demolish the building. Workers arrived early in the morning, but strange things started happening before they even began. Tools went missing, machines refused to start, and one worker claimed he heard a child whispering his name from inside the rubble. When they tore down the main floor, they found something buried beneath the old basement. Small toys, a burned photograph of the Miller family, and a child's drawing of the same faceless figure Jason had captured on camera. But what terrified them most was a name scratched faintly into the wood under the drawing: Jason Turner. No one could explain it. The wood was old, decades old, far older than Jason himself. After that, the demolition stopped. The workers refused to continue, and the site was abandoned once again. Today, Raven Hill is nothing more than ruins hidden beneath overgrown weeds. But every Halloween night, at exactly 10:47 p.m., passers-by still see a light flicker deep within the darkness, just for a few seconds. Some say it's Jason's flashlight. Others believe it's the spirit of the house itself, alive, feeding on fear, waiting for the next curious soul to enter. Locals warn newcomers to stay away, but there's always someone who doesn't listen, and those who go looking for the light never seem to find their way back. The house may be gone, but its shadow remains. In Maplewood, people say the curse of Raven Hill didn't end with the fire or the demolition. It just moved, spreading quietly to anyone who dares to remember it. Every Halloween, the air around Raven Hill turns colder than anywhere else in town, and if you listen closely, you might still hear faint footsteps in the dirt, the soft hum of a broken lullaby, and a whisper calling from the darkness just as the clock strikes 10:47 p.m.
In the small town of Grey Ridge, Halloween was always something special. Every year, people from nearby villages came to witness the town's famous Halloween parade. It was a long-standing tradition: bright costumes, music, laughter, and children walking the streets with glowing lanterns. But in 1995, the celebration changed forever. That year, Halloween night began like any other. The air was crisp, leaves covered the ground, and the smell of burning wood filled the streets. Families gathered near the main square, waiting for the parade to start. But something felt different. There was an unusual silence, as though the town itself was holding its breath. At exactly 8 p.m., the church bells rang to signal the start. But instead of cheerful music, the sound that followed was faint and distorted, a slow, eerie melody that no one recognized. People looked around, confused. The fog grew thicker, rolling in from the forest, swallowing the edges of the street. Then, they appeared. From the mist, a line of figures began to emerge, slowly marching down the main road. They wore long, dark cloaks, and each carried a lantern that glowed with a strange blue flame. Their faces were covered with pale masks, expressionless and cracked, as if made from old porcelain. They moved in perfect silence. Not a word, not a sound of footsteps, only the soft hum of that strange tune echoing in the air. At first, the crowd thought it was part of the show. Children clapped, and some people even cheered nervously. But as the procession continued, unease began to spread. The lanterns flickered in unison, and the fog thickened until the streetlights disappeared completely. Witnesses later said that the temperature dropped so quickly they could see their breath. The air smelled faintly of metal, like blood. A woman standing near the bakery claimed she saw her reflection in one of the masked figure's lanterns, but her face appeared twisted, older, and decayed. Another man swore that when he blinked, the figures were suddenly closer, though they never seemed to move faster than a slow, steady march. When the parade reached the center of town, all the lights went out. The only illumination came from the blue flames. The figures stopped in front of the clock tower, standing completely still. The music stopped too. For several long seconds, the town square was silent. Then, one by one, the lanterns went out. Darkness swallowed everything. People screamed, but no sound came out. Their voices were gone. When the lights finally returned minutes later, the figures had vanished, leaving only faint footprints burned into the cobblestone, glowing faintly like embers. The next morning, the town discovered something even stranger. 37 people who attended the parade were missing. No bodies, no signs of struggle, just gone. Their homes remained untouched, their doors still locked from the inside. Police searched the nearby forest for weeks, but found nothing. The only clue came from a security camera at the gas station on the outskirts of town. At 8:47 p.m., the camera captured the fog rolling across the road, and within it, for just one frame, the faint outline of the cloaked figures walking toward the woods. After that night, Grey Ridge canceled all future Halloween parades, but every year since then, without fail, the fog returns. Around 8 p.m., the town grows unnaturally quiet. The church bells ring once, even though the tower has been broken for decades. Those who are foolish enough to stay outside swear they hear faint music in the distance, a slow, haunting tune carried by the wind. In 2017, a group of teenagers decided to test the legend. They live-streamed themselves standing in the empty square on Halloween night. The video lasted for 43 minutes. Near the end, the screen began to glitch. The fog rolled in, and for a moment, faint blue lights appeared behind them. The last thing the stream captured was the sound of the church bell and the faint whisper of that same melody. None of the teenagers were ever found. Locals say the silent parade still marches somewhere beyond the town, repeating its ghostly procession every October 31st, collecting new souls to join it. Some believe the blue lanterns hold the spirits of those who vanished. Others think the town itself is cursed, forever doomed to replay the moment when celebration turned into horror. To this day, no one in Grey Ridge celebrates Halloween. The streets remain dark, doors locked and windows covered as soon as the sun begins to set. But yet, every year, someone goes missing. People say that if you ever find yourself driving through Grey Ridge on Halloween night and you see blue lights glowing through the fog, don't stop. Don't look. Don't listen. Just keep driving. Because once you hear the melody of the silent parade, it never leaves you. And eventually,